I've been praying the last few days about, about the message and what the Lord, what I always ask Him is, Father, what do you want to say to your people? And there's something that, just a topic that stemmed from a conversation we had with a friend a few days ago, and the Lord just began to speak to me through it yesterday. And this is what he laid on my heart, is today I just want to have a staff meeting. I just want to have a staff meeting. We have an idea of what a staff meeting is, right? But in biblical times, that might have meant something else. And that's what I want to talk about. A staff meeting. 1 Samuel 17:40. This is the story of David and Goliath that all of us are probably familiar with. But it's the story of David and Goliath. And there's something here I want to point out that gets overlooked a lot. And I think it's probably a key to this whole story that you heard probably as a child. It says, then he took his staff in his hand, and he chose for himself 5 smooth stones. Like, you've probably heard that part, right? That he went to the brook and he chose 5 smooth stones. So we knew he had 5 stones, and we knew he had a slingshot. But did you know he had a staff? So the first thing he did, before he even went and got rocks, was he got a staff. He took his staff in his hand, and he chose for himself 5 smooth stones from the brook, and he put them in his shepherd's bag, in a pouch which he had. And his sling was in his hand, and he drew near the Philistine. So like I said, we know the story. That David went out, and he fought this giant with a sling and a stone. But why did he bring the staff? He didn't use it as a weapon, did he? Did he fight Goliath with a staff? But he had it. In fact, it was the first thing he grabbed. As a rite of passage, so we know at this time that David was a shepherd, right? He was a young shepherd boy, a young teenager. And as a rite of passage into manhood, a shepherd received a staff, his very own staff. It was handed down to him as a rite of passage. It was brand new. It wasn't a generational thing. It wasn't passed down from his forefathers. It was his very own staff. And that staff he got, and you've seen the pictures of the shepherd with their staff, right? It's that crooked stick that they carry. It was more than just a walking stick. It was also a tool. And he could use that staff to catch a sheep, to pull a sheep to him. He also could use it as a walking stick. But it was so much more than that. It was his journal. It was his journal. It was his storyline. It was his testimony. It told his story. Every time that something notable happened in their life, these shepherds would sit down and they would carve in their staff. Every time they saw God move. Every time they had a life-changing encounter, they would sit down and they would take their staff and they would carve an image in that staff. And it went before him as a testimony. This is who I am. This is what God's done for me. These are my victories. These are the things I've overcome. These are the challenges that I faced, and this is how God moved. And it was always there as a reminder. Shepherds in that time were nomads right? So they traveled with the grass, and they moved their sheep into the next green pasture. So as they traveled, they would come into an area where they had different shepherds that had come from another area, and they would meet up. And they would share a campfire at night. And they would sit around the campfire, all of these different shepherds from different lands and different backgrounds, and they would share stories. And they'd get to know each other by the stories that they shared. It's how they passed the time. It's how they fellowship. And one could look at another's staff and say, he would see the image, and he'd say, tell me about that. Tell me the story about what you carved here. Tell me what took place. Tell me what this means. And they could share the story. First Samuel 17:34-37. But David said to Saul, now I didn't want to bring up the whole text, but where we are is, the army of Israel's camped on the hillside. The Philistine army's on the other hillside. There's a giant in the valley, and he's cursing God, the God of the Israelites. David's out with his sheep. His father sends for him and tells him to bring bread to his brothers that are in the army. And he shows up on the battlefield, right? And he comes with the bread, and he hears the cursing going on in the valley, and he asks, what's going on? Well, there's a Philistine giant down there. Well, why didn't somebody go take his head from him? Well, because he's a giant. So this whole story's taken place. And so David goes to the king and says, I'll go kill him. I'll go fight this giant. And you know the story. Who are you? What can you do? You're just a small, runny boy. Got sheep pellets between your toes. What are you going to do? So that's kind of where we pick up. But before David volunteers himself, he said, what you give the man that kills him? Right? And so they go through the list of all the rewards that are being offered for the man that kills this giant. So David said, man, I'll go down there and kill him. So we pick up right here in 1 Samuel 17. And David said to Saul, this is what I like, right here. Because Saul just told him everything that they're going to give to the man that kills the giant, right? But look what David said. But David said to Saul, your servant, he's talking about himself, used to tend his father's sheep. He said, I don't do that no more. He said, now when did he stop tending sheep? He was just with the sheep. When Daddy went and got him to bring bread, right? But when he heard about the riches that's going to be given to the man that kills the giant, he said, hey, I'm the guy that used to tend the sheep. I don't do that no more. Because from this day forward, I'm going to be a rich man. I'm going to have your daughter, and I ain't tending no sheep no more. Your servant used to keep his father's sheep. And when a lion or a bear came and took a lamb out of the flock, I went after it and I struck it and delivered the lamb from his mouth. And when he rose against me, I caught him by his beard and I struck him and I killed him. So I want you to picture this. How was David telling this story? With a staff. And he's pointing it out. Look right here, Saul. You see this bear on my staff? I carved that when that bear came and took my lamb. And I caught him by the beard and I killed him. And I took the lamb back from him. You see this lion, Saul? This is from the time that the lion came. You see this? You see this, Saul? This is from the day Jesse came. And he poured the oil of anointing on my head. He said, I'm going to have your throne. You see who I am? You see who my God is? Do you see what God does for me? Who is this uncircumcised Philistine? And after today's song, there's going to be a new carving in this staff. And it's going to be me holding the head of a giant. Staff told the story. Psalm 23:4. Now we're further along in the life of David, right? We fast forward years. Now he's not looking at his staff anymore. Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, I'm right. You had a puzzled look, made me question myself. But he's no longer looking at his staff. He's now the king, right? Now he's the one that killed tens of thousands, and he's conquered nations. And really, he would need a pretty big staff to have his accomplishments engraved in it. But now look what he's looking at. He's praying to God. And he said, even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil because you're with me. Your rod and your staff comfort me. He said, God, I'm not showing anyone my staff anymore. It's all about your staff. I'm looking at your staff. I'm getting comfort from looking at your staff, because when I look at your staff, God, I see who you are. I see what you've done. I see what you accomplish. I see your heart. I see your power. I see your might in your staff, and that's what comforts me. I'm comforted when I look at the staff of the one that watches over me. When you read the staff of our Lord, what's it say on there? Defeated death. Overcame hell. Defeated the grave. Defeated sickness and disease. Look, if you struggle with something, look at his staff. If you struggle with sickness, look at his staff. It's right there on his staff. He overcame it. By his stripes you were healed. It's in his staff. He overcame poverty. He defeated poverty. He took it upon himself. He was stripped of everything he ever had. He was stripped of his position. He was stripped of his inheritance. He was stripped of his father. He was stripped of his life. He was stripped of his robe. He was stripped of everything. Why? So that you could have it all. That's right. He took your place. Amen. He overcame poverty for you. So if poverty tries to rise up, point out the staff. Look at the staff of the one who watches over me. He's already defeated it. He overcame separation, our separation from God. My God, why have you forsaken me? Because he was defeating the separation, the forsakenness for us. So if we can walk in acceptance, he was forsaken. And it's right there on his staff. Overcome forsakenness. He overcame sin. What sin trips you up? It's on his staff. What sin trips you up? It's on his staff. It's defeated. He defeated principalities and powers and rulers of the darkness of this age. Did he not? For this purpose was the Son of God manifest, to destroy the works of the evil one, that no principality nor power can stand before my God, because he made a show of them openly, triumphing over them in it.
That's right.
He was triumphant over principalities and powers and rulers of darkness. All the works of the evil one, he was triumphant. He demolished every enemy that stood between himself and his people, so that his love could reach them. Every enemy that stood between himself and you, he demolished, so he could reach out to you with his love. And they're all carved in his staff. They're all there. So we can look at his staff, and we can look at his life of victories. The unending life of victories. And we can say, that's the victory I need. There it is. I see it right there on his staff. He did it for me, so I claim it.
Yep.
And I take possession of it because he did it for me. It's mine. It's my victory to walk in. He's already provided it for me.
Yep.
The word says that they overcame by the blood of the Lamb and the word of their testimony. They overcame by the blood of the Lamb and what was written in their staff. And what they had taken the time to carve in their staff. The victories that God had performed in their life for them. So David, when he's facing it, are you facing a giant? Anybody? Just me? Okay, I'm glad I'm not the only one. I wish I was, but I knew I wasn't. So when David was facing a giant, what did he do? What was the first thing he did? He grabbed his staff. Why? He said, I'm going to have to look at this. And I'm going to have to remind myself. I'm going to have to get myself encouraged. I'm going to have to build myself up in faith by looking at what God's done for me in the past, when he didn't run out on me when the bear was there, and he didn't run out on me when the lion came. And I remember the day when he said, I'm the chosen one, and he poured his oil of anointing on me. Nobody might have not poured oil of anointing on you, but I bet the oil of the anointing has risen up in you. Take courage. Encourage yourself. Build yourself up, and not pridefully, in faith, knowing that if God did it then, he'll do it again. Said he's the same yesterday, today, and forever. And if he didn't let me down back then, he's not going to let me down this time either. If I overcame back then, I'm going to overcome again. So we have to grab a hold of our staff first before we even go into the battle. And start remembering what God did. What has God done for you? Where has God moved in your life? What are the things that came against you, and how did God lead you through? How did you overcome? What are your victories? So here's the cool thing about it. When the shepherds sat around the fire when they visited, they say, hey, tell me about this. And that's when you get to share your faith. This is what God did for me. I remember when I was faced with, and God did, this is what came against me, and this is how God moved.
Yep.
So what's your story? What's your story? What's God done for you? What was your giant? And how did you overcome? I'm asking you because I want to hear. I want to hear what God's doing. What's God doing in your life? What has God done for you? What are we doing this for? To build up our faith. Why? Because we're going to see God do something.